Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. This video is for the upcoming full moon in Aquarius. As always, I will take a little look at the astrology and then follow that with a tarot spread. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. If you're a new viewer, the reason I use PowerPoint for my videos is because I channel by writing, and this format makes it possible for me to put my content on YouTube. I hope you'll enjoy the video. So as I mentioned, I do start with the astrology of the full moon, and then I look at the tarot and oracle spread for the full moon. I often find the astrology and tarot connect, but if you're not into astrology at all, you can skip straight on to the tarot reading. I will have timestamps listed in the description box for each section of the presentation. So here we are. This is the chart for the full moon in Aquarius, which is happening on the 19th of August. I've highlighted the points of interest on this chart, and I'll go through them all briefly. So there are some very strong energies in this chart, and it's mostly to do with the two red triangles that you can see here. So the two red triangles are showing us that there are two T-squares happening at this full moon, and that's a big deal. And one of these T-squares actually involves the moon, as well as the ruler of the full moon, and it's involving the fixed signs. So we had something similar at the Scorpio full moon earlier in this year. That was back in April. We had Pluto, which was the ruler of Scorpio. It was in Aquarius, and it was squaring the sun in Taurus and the moon in Scorpio. And all of those signs were obviously fixed signs. And that was an intense full moon because Pluto is about endings and transformations. And obviously fixed signs tend to resist anything changing. Now this time around, Uranus is the ruler of this full moon, and it's squaring the full moon. And again, as I said, this is happening in fixed signs. So Uranus is not the planet of endings, but it is the planet we associate with sudden, unexpected turns of events. Now Uranus is currently in Taurus, which is the sign of fixed earth. So its influence in this sign is very much on our material lives and the stability of our material lives. Taurus is also a sign that relates to the self rather than to relationships with others or the collective energies. Taurus relates to our values, our material possessions, our home, our financial security, and so on. Now, at that Scorpio full moon, Pluto was in Aquarius, and that's a sign that relates to the collective. So that might be another difference here. So yeah, this full moon might hit quite a bit closer to home than that Scorpio full moon. So full moons are associated with a few themes, and I'll just remind you of what those are. So they are associated with illumination, clarity, revelations, closures, completions, and releases. This energy is obviously big, so it might be something that has an unexpected impact on the way that we live. It could be quite illuminating, and it could mean that there's something that has to be released. Now we're dealing with fixed signs, so it's probably something that was quite stable before and something that we were probably quite attached to and wanted to hang on to. So with these big energies, I always think it's a good idea to just take a little peek at your birth chart to see which houses these signs relate to. And we're talking about the 27-degree point of these three signs. Now you can get a free birth chart online if you know the date, time, and place you were born. And you will also be able to see on that chart if any of your natal planets or points are influenced by this T-square. I'm just going to quickly show you on the chart where these things are. So that long blue band shows us the full moon placements. So the sun is in Leo, and I've highlighted that at about 4 o'clock on this chart, and it's also conjunct Mercury, so that's part of this T-square as well. Mercury has re-entered Leo because of it being in retrograde currently. The moon in Aquarius is at about 10 o'clock on this chart, so over on the other side. And Uranus in Taurus is shown in green at about 7 o'clock. So that's our first T-square, and it's interesting that Mercury retrograde is involved in the T-square because that brings in the idea of things being looked at again. So perhaps there are plans or ideas that have already been made or actioned that might be reconsidered, and they might get reimagined or reworked. And those things will be impacted by whatever the square from Uranus in Taurus brings into the picture. And before I finish with Uranus, the divine interplay is obviously still going. For new viewers, that's what I'm calling the aspects between Neptune and 29 degrees of Pisces and Uranus and Pluto. So Neptune is at the critical or anaretic degree of Pisces, which is the last degree of the zodiac wheel, and that makes it a very evolved Neptune. And it is sextiling both of the other planets. On this chart, I've highlighted Neptune in yellow at about 9 o'clock, Pluto in yellow at about 11 o'clock, and Uranus obviously is in green at about 7 o'clock. Now, Pluto and Uranus are both planets that can bring big changes. So they're both sextiling Neptune, and they are in fact trining one another. So this means that all of these big outer planets are working together to make things change. So even though our first impression is that it is just Uranus squaring the full moon, I guess it's fair to say that Uranus is being supported by these other two big planets right now. So this divine interplay is actually meaning that all three of these planets are in on it. And I guess what that means is that even though this might be something that causes a great amount of turmoil in our lives, there is a plan being enacted that is bigger than any of us. So even though I said Uranus in Taurus is about something changing perhaps in our personal lives, this is all being supported by these outer planets, and I would say that their agenda is more about changing the world. So I don't know if that thought will bring much comfort if we're going through turmoil in the present, but I guess we might look back at this time in our lives and realize that the things we were forced to change were part of a bigger story that was about the world changing. I know this year has forced me to make big changes to my work due to my health. And that's not something I expected at all, because at the start of this year, I thought this year would be like any other year and there would just be more years of me just doing what I was doing. But it is all changing. So I just have to accept the things that aren't in my control and try to come up with the best plan B that's possible. And I can definitely see why a Mercury retrograde might help me, because that's definitely an area of my life where I've made new plans, and maybe I'll be shown that my new plans aren't quite good enough, or maybe they just need to be reworked or something like that. So we'll see what comes up. Now, the other T-square here involves the mutable signs. So that would be because we have Jupiter in Gemini, we have Saturn in Pisces, and we have Venus in Virgo. And we also have Mars conjunct that Jupiter in Gemini, Now, that's another big energy that's happening at this full moon. The Jupiter-Saturn square is part of a bigger story, and I did cover that in more detail in the last lunar video I did, which is for the Leo new moon. So please do check that one out if you're interested, or obviously you can look up some other astrologers who've done videos on these things. So this square is the opening square between Jupiter and Saturn. And it's called an opening square because they had a great conjunction back in December 2020. And so this opening square energy will play out over the next 12 months. So the great conjunction in 2020 was a new era for these planets, because Jupiter and Saturn will now meet in air signs for the next 220 years, which was different to the previous era where they were meeting in earth signs for the 220-year period before. So that's a big shift in terms of what the collective focus will be on in the future. And I'd say it's a shift away from materialism and individual success to being more about science, innovation, technology, and how we function in our relationships and as part of the collective. So like I said, that's a big paradigm shift, and we're all being asked to transform accordingly. Now, at this full moon, this particular mutable T-square has Venus in Virgo opposing Saturn in Pisces and squaring Mars and Jupiter in Gemini. I've highlighted all of those planets in red so you can see them clearly. Now, Venus, unfortunately, is the weakest energy in this dynamic. But as a personal planet, this is where I suspect the T-square will probably have the quickest and most obvious effect in our lives. So Venus is related to beauty, creation, nurturing, wealth, and so on. And if she's being pressured by these other planets here, she might also have to change what she's been doing and move to plan B, which is, as I said before, it's about coming up with the next best plan. Now, Virgo is a sign that relates to daily habits and routines and health and self-care. So Venus might need to create a new beautiful plan that is different to what was there before. Now, for some reason, I'm thinking of an eat, pray, love kind of thing, where our daily habits and self-care are simplified and we're focusing on what's best for mind, body, and spirit. And I guess mind, body, and spirit fits with these mutable signs that we're talking about, Gemini, Virgo, and Pisces. I feel like this is going to be about cultivating habits that are good for us in an overall sense, rather than focusing on habits that just relate to a particular outcome. So as an example, instead of focusing on weight loss or how fit you are or how nice you look, you might just decide you're going to drink more water, eat better, go for walks, get more sleep, and practice some relaxation techniques. Now, those new habits will combine with each other to have many positive effects on you, your mind, your body, your spirit. But none of them are individually about achieving any specific endpoint. So none of them are a plan that's going to make you lose 5 kilograms, for example. So this T-square is also asking for change, but it's happening in mutable signs, so it will be less intense. Mutable signs are adaptable and they will accept change and they will work with change fairly easily. Now, the last aspect here is Chiron in Aries, which is sextiling the moon and trining the sun. I've highlighted Chiron in grey on the chart. This seems like the most minor aspect here, and it's a few degrees off. But Chiron in Aries is about healing some aspect of self, so you might feel that there is something at this full moon that's related to that as well. And that's all I'm going to talk about. Expect a lot of change, and you will find that some of that change is forced on you in a way that you aren't expecting or ready for. But some of these changes you will accept and work with more easily. But I guess it is important to realize that when you're dealing with any kind of change, it is important to be as adaptable as possible because then you're not fighting the process. And the main takeaway point here, and it's actually come up a couple of times just as I've been talking about this chart, and the main takeaway point here is that, it's okay to accept that you can't change, you can't control everything, and it's okay to accept that change is necessary and to come up with your best plan B. So we're not meant to win every round of the competition and sometimes we have to realize that we're not going to win and that we should just surrender so that we can redirect our energies in a direction that will actually work for us. So if you're someone who expects to win every round, I hope you realize that is all coming from your ego. So acceptance and surrender are all about humility, and I guess that's a lesson we're all here to learn. So yes, try to accept the changes that are coming rather than fighting them, and then think, well, if this change is happening, what is my next best plan? What's my plan B? And then let your energy flow in that direction. And I think that will mean things work out much better for you than if you're continuing to focus on what is no longer working in your favor and fighting and struggling to hold on to some original vision that you had. So I guess go check out the Serenity Prayer and work that way. And that's it for the chart. I'm going to move to the next section, which is the tarot spread. And I'm a little bit curious about what that's going to say now. Right, so this is the spread that showed up for this full moon in Aquarius. If you're interested in the decks that I've used, I will have them listed on a slide at the end of the video. So this is one of my French decks. I don't speak French, so if you do, you can laugh at me. I could probably just say these in English, but I don't think it would be as funny, so enjoy it, have a good laugh. But anyway, there were a lot of major arcana cards at the bottom of the deck, so that fits with the big energies in this astrology that came up in the astrology. So this time the card at the bottom of the deck was the Roue de Fortune, which is also known as the Wheel of Fortune. So that is immediate confirmation that things are changing. This is a Jupiter card and it's usually associated with fate or luck. Jupiter is considered a benefic planet, but because this is a wheel that's turning, you do get that sense that fortunes change. Some people might be brought down by the wheel turning, and others might be lifted up by the same series of events. And then, behind this card, there were three other major arcana cards. So in order, we have Le Monde, which is a very fancy way to say the world. And then we have La Papesse, which is the High Priestess, and Le Chariot, which is a tough one, I know, but it's actually the Chariot. And you'll just have to take my word for it. So the world is the end of a cycle, completion. So something is finished. Now, it is the last card of the major arcana, and so it's the end of the Fool's journey. And this is so incredible, but this card is ruled by Saturn. And we have that mutable T-square in the astrology involving Jupiter and Saturn. So maybe it is a good idea to look at your birth chart and see what houses are involved there. I have to admit that I was thinking that the endings might relate to the fixed sign T-square, which is involving the moon. But with Jupiter and Saturn showing up here prominently at the bottom of the deck, maybe it is that mutable T-square where most of the impact is going to be. And when I was talking about that, I thought it might be the house that represents Virgo, where Venus is, where the biggest changes might happen at this full moon. Now, the High Priestess is connected to the moon, and that rules Cancer and the fourth house. And the Chariot card is also related to Cancer. So with those two cards following the Wheel of Fortune and the World, I feel like they are about what happens after the big change or ending. And the meaning of these two cards is that you will be moving forward quickly in the direction that you are intuitively guided to go. The Chariot card with the black and white horses is reminding me of the most recent For Somebody reading that I uploaded. I don't feel like it's related, but maybe someone needs to watch that one because these horses have got my attention. But yeah, I don't think it's for everyone. All right, so the tarot card in the past position is the Two of Swords, and this is about someone who is stuck in their head and unable to decide on something. So they were effectively just going round and round in their head. So this card is about someone who is operating from their ego and resisting every message that was trying to get through to them. So their refusal to see the truth is indicated by the blindfold. Their refusal to acknowledge their feelings is represented by the fact that they have their arms across their chest. Their refusal to acknowledge their intuitive guidance is represented by the fact that they have turned their back to the moon and the choppy waters behind them. So if this person had instead been open to receiving all the guidance they were getting and open to changing their life in response to all the guidance they were getting, they would have got on with the decision they needed to make a long time ago. So instead of doing that, they've stayed stuck in this place that didn't even feel good. And they've just been thinking and thinking and thinking, what do I do? What if I do that? No, I can't do that. It would be a mistake. What if I just keep doing this? I don't know how long I can keep doing this. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I just don't know. So that's the mental dialogue that's been going on in this person's head on repeat. Just been going and going and going. So now with that resistance to all the other guidance, it does fit with what I was talking about with the fixed sign energies where, there's just that complete reluctance to change. So that means this is someone whose ego has been trying to run the show just by shutting down every message it didn't want to hear. And I guess this full moon is where that comes to an end. In the present position, we have the Six of Swords, and that is a card of transition. The waters aren't quite as choppy as in the Two of Swords, but this person has decided to get in a boat that will take them somewhere else. So that is indicating progress from where they were before when they were stuck in their head. And I just noticed the water in the Wheel of Fortune card as well. And in terms of choppiness, it's in between these two cards. So it's sort of Two of Swords, Wheel of Fortune, Six of Swords. So maybe the Wheel of Fortune has already taken effect, and that's what's made this person get in this boat and get on the move. Fate is basically carrying them away to another place. Water is also the element of emotions. So I'm seeing them choosing to enter the water as a sign that they've decided to be guided by their feelings on this one. The water is going from crazy choppy to more stable in progression, probably also represents that they are feeling more at peace as they get further away from that stuck energy that they were in before. Now, I think I might just look at the oracle cards now because I just saw something interesting. That middle oracle card is very symmetrical and it's titled The Moon's Reflection, but there are mirror numbers on the cards on either side because the first oracle card is a number 24 card and the third oracle card is a number 42 card. And I'll just try and explain how this is looking in my mind because it looks like 2, 4, place of reflection, and then 4, 2. So it's like someone built themselves into what they are now. And at this point, they're facing who they are now and seeing themselves with full clarity. And they are realizing that this person that they've become is not who they want to be. They actually want to be more like who they were before they built themselves to be this person that they are now. So they went from 2 to 4, and now they're realizing they don't like what 4 is, and they want to go back to 2. And I think that's an energetic thing. It's like you don't like the energy you're in now or the way that you view life now, and you want to go back to the energy you used to be in or the way that you used to view life. So this might be remembering how you used to be optimistic and enthusiastic about life, and now you're miserable and frustrated and you just want to go back to who you were before. Or perhaps you were adventurous and free-spirited in the past, and now you're someone who is always responsible and always playing it safe, and you just want to be carefree again. So it is going to require major change in your life, but you realize that who you were in the past was actually the real you, and by changing yourself into something else, you have just surrendered your happiness, your joy, and your spark. And now you're seeing that you need to change back to being the real you again. Obviously, not everything can be tossed out, but I think you're going to see very clearly the things that don't align with who you really are and who you want to be. And those are the changes you're going to realize that you need to make. The first oracle card here is titled Weavers Share Their Magic Tea, and I feel like the image on this is like divine inspiration filling all of these cups, and it's actually got like an Ace of Cups feel to it. All the faces on the pot and the cups look like they're in a relaxed meditative state, and they're being filled with the magic tea. They're being filled until they overflow, and then the tea starts spilling over and filling another cup. So it seems like this seems like it relates to how changes in one person's life can have a ripple effect on other people's lives. So one person choosing to make more aligned choices can inspire others to do the same. One person making choices that allow them to rediscover their spark can also inspire others to want to do the same. So there's definitely that kind of energy to this card. And I'm also thinking now of the divine interplay in the astrology and how I said that those outer planets' agenda was to change the world. And I'm feeling like this is how they'll do it. They'll work on the collective by working on individuals. They'll make people realize that the changes, they need to make and show them that these are really positive changes for them individually. And then those people will start to experience happiness and joy, and that will have a ripple effect on the people around them, and those other people will benefit from the positive changes in the primary person, as I said, and they'll also feel inspired to make positive changes to their lives. So I feel like that's how that divine interplay will show itself in the 3D in this world. So now the second oracle card, the Moon's Reflection, is about what the moon is revealing to you about yourself. And the words on it are accept responsibility. So this is about how it's on you to make the changes that you feel guided to make. It's not a decision for anyone else. So I know a lot of us, or maybe it's just me, but I feel like a lot of us do have a tendency to share our problems with others and have big discussions about what we should do. And lately, I've just realized that the advice we get from others rarely fits with what our intuitive guidance is. So as I was saying in the astrology section, I've decided to make changes in relation to work due to my health. And most of the advice I get from friends is how if I do A, B, and C, I can just keep doing exactly what I'm doing now and it will work. And that's totally contrary to what my intuition is saying, which is if you make adjustments now, you can make things easier for yourself in the future. And to be honest, I think about what my friends tell me, and I find myself thinking, why would I even want to keep doing what I'm currently doing when it's already becoming a struggle to do it? So, if I was to take their advice, that might mean I spent an extra 6 months struggling before I realized that I actually was right all along about needing to change things. And gosh, I wish I'd made that call 6 months ago when it first came to me instead of listening to these other people. So, I hope you see what I'm saying. I think accept responsibility is saying that this is your life and you're responsible for making the choices that are best for you. Don't try to offload that to other people because the truth is they're not in your shoes, they're not in your boat. So they can only give you the opinion of an external, like an observer. They're not actually in it where you are. So if you're feeling that there's something in your life that needs to change, you have to have the guts to do what's necessary. So you have to do what you think is right. You have to change what you need to change at whatever time that you think is the right time to make that change. It's your life. Now, accepting responsibility also means you accept the consequences. For example, your choices might be career ending, or it might mean that there is a significant reduction in your income. And those are just consequences that you will also be accepting. It is what it is. The last oracle card here says cut the cords of doubt. And I feel like that is about the big picture. I think if we're listening to our intuition, we are allowing ourselves to be guided by our higher self. Our higher self really is not out to destroy us, and that's pretty obvious. So if our higher self is guiding us away from anything, it's because that thing is not meant to be for us in the long term. So to cut the cords of doubt, that is about choosing to trust the guidance that comes from our higher self. We need to stop doubting it. We need to learn to let go and surrender to our intuitive guidance. In this card, we see the cords being cut, allowing this kite to fly free along the currents of the wind. And I guess from that image, we can say that we'll also have that freedom too once we surrender and learn to trust. We'll just learn to go with the flow, and wherever the currents take us is where we're going to be going, and that's exactly how it should be. The last tarot card here is Six of Pentacles, and I would love to say that following your intuition will make you the rich man in this image. But there are 3 people in this image, and 2 of them are not the rich man. What I can say, though, is that this card does have a set of scales in it, and that is about justice and fairness. So this card is about giving and receiving, but it's also about fairness. And I think this card is indicating that if you make the choices that you are feeling guided to make, you will get what you should get. The universe will be perfectly fair about that. If you're deserving of a lot of wealth, it will be there. If you're meant to be receiving money from others, you will receive what you're meant to. Because let's face it, this rich man is being generous and he is giving to these people that need this money. Now, I'm thinking back to how it was the Wheel of Fortune at the bottom of the deck. So this Six of Pentacles card might even be carrying the message of how fortunes might change. Perhaps who you are in this image is not who you will be in the future. Maybe it is about how the Wheel of Fortune changes your fortune. While no one wants to go from wealthy to not so wealthy, I think if that's the journey you're fated to have, I don't think there's a way to avoid that. It is just about understanding that the soul's journey is not about avoiding hardship. The soul is here to experience everything it's meant to experience. If there is a fated change in your financial status, that is meant to be part of your life's journey. I personally don't think it's something to be too afraid of. It's a challenge, but it is a challenge that you're meant to navigate, and it's meant to teach you something. And when you've learned what you need to learn, it will be something that you can transcend, and that's true of all of life's challenges. So so we'll see what that card might mean. But I do feel like the Wheel of Fortune, because it is often a card of good luck. It's related to Jupiter, which is a benefic planet, as I said. So I feel like it probably is you that is the rich man. Plot twist. In fact, I'm guided to the fact that he's the one that stands out in this image, and the other 2 fade into the background more. And I'm also seeing that he's the one wearing the same colors as the High Priestess and the Charioteer. So I feel like this is saying it's the same energy. So if you are doing that fast movement, following your intuition. It's leading you to this position of wealth and success. And so this rich man in this card, he's someone the universe has blessed abundantly. And that's why he's giving, because he knows he's been blessed and he wants to share that blessing with others. And because we had that magic tea card, I did say in that, when I was talking about that it is by changing people's lives in positive ways that those positive ripple effects can happen. So if this was instead someone becoming poorer, being dealt with a dose of cold, hard reality, that really wouldn't inspire other people at all. So I do think this Six of Pentacles is a positive outcome for whoever this is for. Actually, and I can also see that from the numbers, because we have a lot of sixes. We have the Six of Swords, the Six of Pentacles, and then the 24 and 42, they both reduce to 6 in numerology as well. And to me, repeated sixes are about unconditional love and luck. So definitely, I think this Wheel of Fortune is about changes that will make you feel loved and blessed. So wow, yeah, that's a great outcome to the tarot spread. And I think that's all I'm seeing in the spread. So I do like these messages that did come through, and some came right through at the end, which was nice. So while this full moon is a lot about change, I think if you focus on the positive aspects of the changes that you're being led to make, you will actually be co-creating the future with the universe, because that's how manifestation works. So if you want to end up in this wealthy, successful position, just imagine the changes that are happening will lead to that, and stay focused on that, on those changes being positive. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this reading, and I hope it will help you navigate through the energies of this intense Aquarius full moon. All right, as promised, these are the decks from the spread. The tarot deck is Le Tarot de Marseille Waite, and the oracle cards were the Dreamweaver's Oracle, the Moonology Messages Oracle, and the Sacred Creators Oracle. The crystal in today's spread was clear quartz. Finally, I'd just like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful, please show your support by liking the video or by making a comment. Please share the video if you think others would benefit from it. You can also show your support by subscribing to the channel, and that will mean you are notified of videos that I upload in the future. There's a little thumbnail image here of my Facebook blog page, so you can check that out if you're interested in supporting me on Facebook. And that's it for this full moon reading. Please feel free to check out some of the other videos that are already uploaded as well if you find them interesting. Thank you for staying to the end, and I hope that I'll see you again in another video.